So today we're diving into something that's been on my radar for a while, and after spending a good 3 hours streaming my first impressions, I am genuinely excited to share my thoughts. We are talking about Lost Eidolons Veil of the Witch. Now, if you're a fan of tactical RPGs, especially titles like Fire Emblem, then you absolutely need to stick around to the end of this video because, man, I got a treat for you guys. So the biggest question is, what exactly is Lost Eidolons Veil of the Witch? Well, it's a turn-based tactical RPG, a standalone story to the original Lost Eidolons that came out back around, I think, 2022, developed by Ocean Drive Studio. Now, from the moment I saw the initial trailers, I was immediately drawn in. The aesthetic, the promise of just this deep tactical combat and the epic fantasy setting all just screamed that I need to play this. Now, I am aware for any of you who have already played the original Lost Eidolons that it is currently sitting at a mostly negative reviews on Steam, and I feel like this time around with Veil of the Witch they realized what was wrong, and I feel like they flipped it on its head. Now, my first impressions purely from a visual and narrative setup perspective were incredibly positive. I know that was a big issue with the original game. The narrative was basically forced and not really much going on, but this time around we start as this unknown character, which in game you can basically choose male or female, and we quickly find out that we're pretty much embroiled in a conflict that is far beyond our initial understanding, as your character has some form of amnesia of their past and we need to recollect these memories while also tackling that major problem. Now, immediately on stream, I was immediately brought on, like, man, the voice acting was pretty solid just from the get-go. Character designs are really appealing, and it kind of has this visual novel feel to it as well, which I always adore, and I love when visual novels have some good voice acting too. So it actually plays really plays a big part. The world itself feels very lived in. Even in the early hours of me playing, I got a bit of lore and history just from the jump, especially within the first hour, just trying to get the player really intricate into the larger history and the intricate politics that plays around in the world. And essentially we are stranded on this island because the mainland, or the government in itself, has yet to send out any aid or assistance, so we need to take matters into our own hand. Now, in my opinion, I said it on stream, I think there's a lot going on that we may not be aware of, but it does really set this compelling hook. I was ready to just sink my teeth in during my stream, and man, oh man, we need to talk about the meat and potatoes. The gameplay. After you get that initial narrative setup of losing your memories, making some form of a pact with this witch, and right after these narrative beats, you're quickly introduced to the core tactical combat. And this right here is where that Fire Emblem comparisons that you've probably seen thrown around really start to shine, but with its own distinct flavor. Now, you do have the standard grid-based movement, you have that kind of weapon triangle-esque advantages, though not as strict or obvious as Fire Emblems, and you also get a variety of unit types to go up against. You have archers, you have mages, you have knights, and so on and so forth. But Veil of the Witch introduces some really interesting mechanics. I immediately noticed the importance of positioning, environmental factors, the elevated terrain. Everything is trying to give you some of an advantage or disadvantage. And flanking enemies, feel genuinely impactful. My boy Emil, he's the rogue of my party. And my god, that concealed cloak and dagger type movement, it really did help my strategy even further, and it just really started to evolve very quickly from just rushing in to carefully planning each move. Now, beyond fighting, beyond the combat, we got to talk about that slice of life type style. Now, in between your expeditions, there is a city hub system. Now, the city hub systems has quite a few categories for you to be able to do and be able to move around in. This is essentially the place to be manage your crew, upgrade their equipment. Now, one thing about upgrading equipment, I'm going to explain a little bit later, but you can upgrade your equipment through your journey, but you can also learn new skills or new passive buffs to increase your party through each run. You can also help forge the relationships by having conversations with some of your party. Now, granted, like I said, you can improve your party relationship while you're out in the wild on your expedition, but you can also have conversations at the tavern. It's a familiar loop for tactical RPG fans, but it feels well implemented here. Live on stream, I spent a good chunk of my 3 hours just pouring into like some of the skill trees and making sure my party was optimally equipped and like really trying to understand how to improve myself, because it felt like every battle that you come across, you are definitely getting into like some major issues, because like it felt like every battle was hard. Not one battle was easy. Like in some cases, like you can use a little bit of strategy to it. Some cases you need to use a lot of strategy, and it has this kind of satisfying depth to the customization that just makes you feel invested in each of your characters. Now that's all because of the unique randomness of each run. Yes, at the end of the day, this is still a roguelike. No two runs are the same, as I noticed that immediately. Each run is shown as an expedition. As of now, from what I've seen on stream, there is currently 3 acts, or technically 3 expeditions. Altogether, so far in my playtime, I can only reach the first boss of the first act, but let's go over how the expeditions work. Of course, I spent the most time in Act 1, because I could not beat the boss of it, but Act 1 expedition has 5 battles before you reach Carlotta, which is the end boss of that. Now, I have a theory that each expedition has a running theme. Now, if you notice throughout your first 5 battles that you're going up against like Imperial soldiers, you're going up against these zombies, and a lot of witchcraft and like voodoo is going on. And you finally reach Carlotta, who is at the end of that Act 1, and she is, of course, the source of that problem. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I love that narrative storytelling leading up to it, or giving me a cause of reasoning of what's going on in this given area. Now, granted, you can guide your crew through the forest, picking which route suited you best. Each route promised a specific reward. Like one route, you can go left, it get you gold. You can go straight, you get like these resonance stones, which allows you to upgrade your equipment for that specific run. And then you can also talk to the Raven to get like relics, which acts as passive buffs for that run. Or you can go right and you can, you know, upgrade your partnership by doing a theme or some form of quest for that character that allows them to improve the party's entire aspect of being able to play, and they get buffs all around. Now, of course, all of this is randomized, so not, like I said, not each run is the same. Once you pick the route, you enter battle, you go up against whatever enemies are throwing your way. But everything was going smoothly during my stream. I was feeling confident, I was learning the ropes, I was enjoying the narrative, and then boom, Veil of the Witch threw me a curveball. There was this one particular mission that just completely humbled me within my first hour, and I went in with my usual strategy, thinking I had it all figured out, and then all of a sudden, boom, TPK, team party kill, right? It wasn't just about raw stats, enemy composition, the map layout. It all forced me to try to rethink everything. It was honestly frustrating in the best possible way. It showed me that this game isn't just going to hold my hand. It demands just this kind of like this strategic thought, and like you need to adapt, right? Everything you need to do needs to be adapting. But the twist, right? The gotcha moment was a crucial moment for my first impressions. It elevated the game from a fun Fire Emblem like to something that's more like a genuinely challenging and engaging tactical experience. It made me realize that death wasn't just in the systems, but in the intelligent level design and enemy encounters. I spent a good 30 minutes just trying to re-strategize, refigure out my plan, adjust my unit placements, and finally I ended up actually conquering, and I was like, oh my god, I've actually gotten further than I did last time. And that's right there is when you get that feeling of like, oh my god, I hit the jackpot, I figured it out. It's that light bulb, right? Coming to find out, you must die in order to get stronger, which is the main loop of any roguelike. So beating it in one go was definitely not an option. And of course, that was kind of another forced tutorial that the game wanted you to do. They gave you something that was impossible, but it showed you like, hey, you're not going to complete all of this. These battles are difficult. You are completely outmatched in every which way. There's going to be multiple enemies on the field. There's going to be multiple things getting thrown at you, and you may not run. This was a brutal tutorial in telling the player that, hey, death is a good thing. Sometimes restructuring your strategy can have a bigger impact on you than you would think. So after approximately just the 3 hours of Lost Eidolons Veil of the Witch, what are my final initial thoughts? This game is definitely a legitimate contender for the best Fire Emblem alternative out there right now. It captures that strategic depth, character investment, and compelling narrative that fans of the genre crave, but it does so with its own unique identity and challenging design. The visual presentation is gorgeous, the music is fantastic, and the tactical combat is incredible, satisfying, surprisingly deep, even in the early stages. As I said, I have not gotten past Act 1, but I can see where this game is going. I can't wait to get further in this story to see how it all plays out. Now, granted, I have not touched on all the intricacies of the relationship system or any late game skill synergies, mainly because I haven't got to that point yet. What I've seen so far has me completely hooked, and I cannot wait to play more. Now, the biggest question for you, chat, for outcasts out there, if you're looking for a new tactical RPG to just dive right into, especially if you're a Fire Emblem fan, yearning for something fresh yet familiar, I cannot recommend Lost Eidolons Veil of the Witch enough based on my first 3 hours. It's got potential, depth, and a challenge that will keep you engaged. It currently right now the game is sitting at around 20 bucks, and it is not bad for a $20 game. It's not bad. Yes, it borrows from some genres. Yes, it is kind of like it's a roguelike, yeah, but $20 and you get a decent story, decent challenging, like it's all fun. But hey, have you played Lost Eidolons Veil of the Witch, or are you planning to? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more deep dives of RPG content, and hey, make sure to catch the live streams because we be having fun over there, all right? And hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my next games that I cover. But as always, my outcast, I want you to stay safe out there, and it's been your host, KICTV, signing out. Peace.